Have you ever noticed that strange pressure to explain yourself? Even when you know, deep down, you don't owe anyone an explanation. The moment you start talking, you can almost feel your power leaking out sentence by sentence. That pressure is everywhere now. People want updates. They want access. They want your reasons. They want you to turn your private life into a public story so they can judge it, comment on it, compare it to theirs. And if you're not careful, you start living like your life needs approval to be real. But here's the truth. The strongest version of you doesn't argue for attention. He builds, he improves, he moves in silence. And when he finally shows up, he doesn't need to announce who he is. Reality does it for him. That's why this is called focus on yourself and stay silent. Not because silence is a trick. Not because you're trying to seem mysterious. But because silence, when it comes from self-respect, becomes control. It protects your energy from being spent on proving, defending, and reacting. The Stoics understood this with a kind of calm ruthlessness. Epictetus kept reminding people that the moment you hand your peace to other people's opinions, you become their servant. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by noise and betrayal, trained himself to do what was right without needing to win the room. Seneca warned that the crowd can steal your soul through temptation. The temptation to be seen, to be praised, to be understood by everyone. So if 2026 is going to be your year, it won't be because you posted a new identity. It will be because you stopped feeding your life to people who don't build it. You started choosing privacy over performance, standards over speeches, results over arguments. Silence is power when you know who you are. There are two kinds of silence, and they feel completely different. The silence that comes from fear, where you're biting your tongue because you're unsure of yourself, and the silence that comes from strength, where you're calm because you don't need to prove anything. Most people confuse these. They think silence is weakness because they've experienced silence as avoidance, as self-doubt, as waiting for permission. But silence becomes power only when it's built on something solid inside you. When you know who you are, what you stand for, what you're willing to do, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. This is where the Stoics were quietly dangerous. Epictetus used to say that if you want to be free, you have to stop handing the keys of your inner life to other people. Because the moment you need someone's approval to feel okay, you start performing. The moment you need to be understood to feel safe, you start explaining. The moment you need to be liked to feel secure, you start bending. And then your life becomes this exhausting project of managing impressions. You're not living, you're negotiating. Think about how often people talk themselves into weakness. Someone criticizes them and they rush to justify. Someone misunderstands them and they panic and over-explain. Someone challenges their boundary and they turn it into a long emotional speech, hoping the other person will finally get it. And sometimes the other person does get it, but not in the way you want. They get that your boundary is negotiable, that your confidence is shaky, that if they push hard enough, you'll start pleading for respect instead of requiring it. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself that he didn't need to waste time arguing about what a good man is. He needed to be one. That line is a blade, because so much of modern life is arguing, explaining, presenting, announcing. And the Stoic move is less narration, more character, less performance, more practice, less talk, more proof. So ask yourself this uncomfortable question. When I go quiet, what am I protecting? My dignity or my fear? If the honest answer is fear, then silence won't feel like power yet. It will feel like pressure. Like swallowing words, like shrinking. If the honest answer is dignity, then your silence becomes a kind of calm authority. You're not quiet because you're afraid of conflict. You're quiet because you refuse to do emotional labor for people who aren't committed to understanding you. 2. Stop performing, let boundaries speak. Have you ever noticed how the moment you try to explain your boundary too much, it starts to sound like a request instead of a decision? You want to be fair. You want to be understood. You don't want conflict, so you soften your boundary with extra words. And those extra words feel polite, but they often carry a quiet message underneath. Please accept this. Please don't be mad. Please still like me. And once a boundary depends on being liked, it stops being a boundary. It becomes a negotiation. This is why people with weak boundaries end up exhausted. They perform kindness. They perform openness. They perform being easy to deal with. They shapeshift to keep the room calm, even when the room is disrespecting them. Stoicism gives you a clean answer. Your boundary isn't clear to you yet, so it can't be clear to anyone else. If you don't decide what is acceptable, you will keep reacting in the moment. And reacting in the moment usually means obeying fear. But strong boundaries are simple. They're quiet. They're consistent. They don't need a speech. Boundaries are not something you say. Boundaries are something you do. Words are only the invitation. The enforcement is the boundary. If someone speaks to you disrespectfully, the boundary is not the speech you give about respect. The boundary is that you end the conversation. You say one clean sentence, "We'll talk when it's respectful," and you leave. If someone keeps violating your time, the boundary is not, "Please be on time because it hurts my feelings." The boundary is that you stop rearranging your life around their lateness. You start at the agreed time. You leave when you said you would leave. You don't punish them. You don't complain. You just stop accommodating the pattern. This is what it means to let boundaries speak. Your life becomes the explanation. Now here's the part that makes this hard. When you stop performing, some people will react. Not because you became bad, but because the old version of you was easier to use. Some people benefited from your guilt. Some people benefited from your over-explaining. And when you stop bending, they call it selfish. They call it cold. They say, "You changed." And that sentence is often not an observation. It's a complaint. It means you stopped making it easy for me. 3. Your life doesn't need a press release. Have you ever noticed how the moment you tell people what you're about to do, a strange part of you relaxes? As if the talking itself became a substitute for the doing. When you announce your plans, you often get a small dose of satisfaction, attention, encouragement, curiosity, even admiration. And your mind quietly treats that as progress. Your brain caches the reward early before the work is done. Then when it's time to actually build, the urgency feels weaker because the ego already got fed. This is why so many people stay stuck in a cycle of starting but never finishing. They live in updates. They live in explanations. They live in telling the story of the person they want to become instead of enduring. The quiet boredom of becoming him. And here's the hard truth. The more you feel the need to announce your life, the less anchored you are in it. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by the ultimate audience. People watched his decisions, his expression, his mood. He could have turned his life into constant image management. But what you feel in his writing is someone constantly trying to return to inner truth. He keeps reminding himself, don't act for applause. Don't become addicted to approval. Don't perform virtue. Practice it. Think about how often you feel tempted to explain your mission to people who aren't building with you. You feel like if they understand, you'll be supported. If they support you, you'll feel confident. But the confidence you borrow from people's reactions is weak confidence. It collapses the moment someone doubts you. Seneca wrote about how the crowd pulls you toward its values through gravity. You start wanting what they want. You start fearing what they fear. And one of the most dangerous ways the crowd pulls you is through conversation. Because once you start discussing your plans in public, you invite interference. You invite opinions you didn't ask for. You invite doubt, envy, pressure, comparisons. This is why the Stoic move is simple. Keep your progress private until it has roots. Seeds don't grow under constant inspection. They grow under soil, and your new life needs soil, silence, focus, consistency, repetition. The practice becomes this. Stop narrating, start building. Instead of telling people, I'm going to change my life, you change one habit quietly. Instead of explaining why you're pulling back, you pull back. Instead of announcing your next move, you make it. And when people notice, let them notice. You don't need to guide their interpretation. Reality will do the introduction. 4. Privacy is not hiding, it's control. Have you ever felt guilty for keeping something to yourself? as if privacy automatically means you're doing something wrong. That guilt is one of the quiet ways the world steals your power, because it pushes you to overshare when you should be protecting your mind, your plans, your peace. Modern culture treats access like a right. It trains people to believe that if they ask, you should answer. But that belief is not truth. It's pressure. Privacy is not hiding. Hiding comes from fear. Privacy comes from discernment. Hiding is when you avoid truth because you can't face it. Privacy is when you protect truth because it's valuable. The Stoics understood this in a way that's almost radical today. Epictetus taught that your peace depends on what is truly yours, your judgments, your choices, your character. And the moment you let other people's opinions reach into that space, you become dependent. Marcus Aurelius spoke to himself as someone trying to stay free inside a noisy world. There's a line that captures the essence of privacy as control. I have to stay on my own side, not in selfishness, in discipline, because your inner life is where your decisions are formed. And if your inner life becomes public property, you start living outward instead of inward. You become reactive. You become easily influenced. You start changing your goals based on people's responses. Privacy shows up in small moments. It's when someone asks you personal questions and you don't feel obligated to answer just because they asked. It's when you're building something and you don't share the blueprint with people who only want to look at it, judge it, and move on. It's when you stop handing people your vulnerabilities as a way to buy connection. Not everyone deserves the soft parts of you. Many people overshare because they confuse openness with intimacy. They think if they tell you everything, the relationship becomes real. But intimacy is not about volume of information. Intimacy is about trust. And trust is earned through consistency, respect, and character. This is why privacy is control. It gives you the ability to choose who gets access. And that choice matters because your inner world is not an unlimited resource. Every time you explain yourself, you spend energy. Every time you defend yourself, you spend energy. Privacy is how you stop bleeding. 5. Rebuild in quiet, no announcements. Rebuilding becomes harder the moment you start telling people you're rebuilding, because now there's a subtle audience attached to it. Now people expect progress. They expect a story. And if you slip, you don't just feel the slip. You feel the embarrassment of the slip. That pressure is poison for real change, because real change isn't a straight line. It's uneven. It's private. It's quiet repetition on days you don't feel heroic. Epictetus would say your job is to care for your own mind, to train your judgments, to govern your choices. Those are internal tasks. They don't need witnesses. They don't need applause. They need consistency. What does it mean to rebuild in quiet? It means you stop announcing the new version of you before he exists. You stop telling people you're changing your routine. You stop promising big transformations. You stop updating people on your progress. Instead, you do the boring part. You wake up and you do the small thing you said you'd do. You train. You read. You work. You clean up your habits. You protect your sleep. You enforce boundaries, and you do it again tomorrow. That repetition is rebuilding, and the quiet is what protects it. When you rebuild in quiet, you start hearing yourself again. You start noticing when you want to improve to impress versus improve to evolve. You start noticing what you truly value when nobody's clapping, and that self-awareness is priceless. 6. Let results be your only reply. Have you ever noticed how arguments have a strange way of multiplying? Even when you win the conversation, you still feel tired, still feel like you spent something you can't get back. That's because most arguments are not about truth. They're about ego, control, and emotional relief. People don't debate to understand. They debate to dominate. And if you keep replying with words, you keep staying in the arena where nothing is ever settled. This is why one of the strongest forms of silence is replacing your reply with results. Results are clean. Results don't beg. Results don't argue. Results simply appear, and the room adjusts. Epictetus would say, "You are not what you claim. You are what you do." Marcus Aurelius trained himself to focus on one thing, the integrity of his actions. Do the right thing. Do it with calm. Let the noise be noise. Someone doubts you. The old you wants to prove them wrong immediately with words. The Stoic move is to say less or nothing and then build quietly until the doubt becomes irrelevant. Someone misjudges you. The old you rushes to correct the label. The Stoic move is to let their label exist and keep living in a way that contradicts it. Because if you try to convince someone who is committed to misunderstanding, you will waste your life. Someone insults you. The old you wants a sharp comeback. The Stoic move is to ask, what kind of man needs the last word with someone he doesn't respect? Results don't have to be big to be powerful. The result of not reacting is a result. The result of staying calm under provocation is a result. The result of sticking to your routine when you feel like quitting is a result. These are not visible trophies, but they change your life faster than trophies because they build character. 7. The strongest people don't need the last word. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and realized you weren't actually fighting for truth? You were fighting for relief, fighting to erase the discomfort of being misunderstood. That's what needing the last word really is. It's not strength. It's tension. It's the nervous system trying to close a loop. It's ego trying to reclaim status. Epictetus would say if someone insults you and you immediately need to answer, then they are controlling you. Not because they are powerful, but because you are attached. Attached to being right, attached to being seen correctly. Marcus Aurelius understood that you can't control the minds of others, and the more you try, the more you suffer. His discipline was not to fix everyone. His discipline was to govern himself. That means sometimes letting a misunderstanding exist. Sometimes letting an insult fall to the floor. Not because you're weak, because you're free. The habit is this: stop paying for conversations that make you poorer. And it begins with noticing the exact moment the urge rises. Someone says something sharp. You feel the heat, the sentence forming, the comeback preparing. That is the moment where strength is decided, not in the response you give, but in the pause you create. Because if you can pause, you can choose. And if you can choose, you are sovereign. The strongest people don't need to win every exchange because they're not building their identity inside conversations. Their identity is built elsewhere, in discipline, in standards, in actions, in private integrity, so they can walk away without feeling like they lost themselves. Have you ever wondered how much of your exhaustion isn't coming from your responsibilities, but from the fact that you keep handing pieces of yourself away in small moments all day long? Most people aren't suffering from a lack of potential. They're suffering from leakage. Leakage through explaining. Leakage through reacting. Leakage through trying to be understood. This isn't about becoming cold. It isn't about punishing people with silence. It's about control in the healthiest sense. It's about choosing where your attention goes. Choosing what deserves your energy. Because silence, when it's built on self-respect, is not emptiness. It's structure. It's the space where your mind can finally breathe. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to announce who you are becoming. You don't need to win every exchange. You don't need to explain your boundaries like you're asking permission. You can build a life that speaks for you, and that life is built through private wins, consistent standards, and calm restraint when your ego wants to get loud. So as you finish this, don't try to apply everything at once. Just pick one place where you've been leaking, one habit of over-explaining, one relationship where access is too easy, one moment where you always need the last word, and choose one clean correction, one pause, one boundary, one act of discipline. Let that be your starting point, because your energy is your life. And once you start spending it like it matters, everything changes, quietly, steadily, for good.